If you're part of a family farm, you get it. It's not just a business, it's a legacy. But man, protecting that legacy for the next generation has gotten so complex. Today, we are going to tackle a huge question that I know is on a lot of your mind.
With all the laws changing, a lot of the old advice is being put to the test. So, the big question is a trust, which for decades was the absolute go-to for estate planning, still the best way to protect your farm? All right, let's get right down to it and figure this out.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the big challenge every farming family faces. Then, we'll dive into the tax trap waiting for you. After that, we'll see why the trust has been seen as this immortal guardian. We'll pit trusts against companies, lay out the ideal structure for today, and wrap up with how to make a plan that's right for you.
Okay, so let's get to the heart of the problem. For any farmer looking to the future, it's a simple question with a massive answer. How do you pass on your life's work without having it carved up by taxes and fees? It really all boils down to the value of the land itself.
Just stop and think for a second. What was your family's land worth 10, maybe 20 years ago? Now, what's it worth today? That huge jump in value, while it looks great on paper, has actually created a massive ticking time bomb when it comes to inheritance. And that growth, well, that's exactly where the tax man is waiting.
So what is this ticking time bomb I'm talking about? Well, when a landowner passes away, their estate isn't just hit with one tax. Nope, it's hit with two separate and potentially devastating financial blows.
First up, you've got estate duty. That's pretty straightforward. It's a tax on the farm's total market value at the moment of death. But then there's the second one, capital gains tax. And this is the one that really catches people by surprise. It's a tax on the growth in the farm's value, from the day it was first bought to the day the owner passes on. And the numbers, they are just staggering. Estate duty, just by itself, can be anywhere from 20 to 25% of the farm's total market value. Can you imagine trying to find a quarter of your farm's value in cash just to pay the tax bill? This is exactly how families get forced to sell off pieces of their land bit by bit.
Now, this quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? It sounds completely backwards, but it's the absolute core of the strategy. The goal is to get appreciating assets, like your farm, out of your personal name. See, if you don't personally own it when you pass away, it can't be taxed as part of your estate. So how on earth do you do that?
Well, this brings us to the classic answer, the one that's been used for generations, the trust. For so long, it's been the ultimate guardian for family assets. Let's dig into exactly why that is.
So what is a trust? At its heart, it's just a legal setup. You take an asset, say the farm, and you move it into the trust. It's then looked after by people called trustees for the benefit of your family, who are called the beneficiaries. The key takeaway? You don't own the farm anymore. The trust does.
And here it is. This is the absolute game changer, the big aha moment. Unlike a person, a trust is a legal entity that, for all practical purposes, is immortal. It just keeps on going. It never dies. And because the trust never dies, those nasty death-triggered taxes we were just talking about, they never get triggered. It's that simple. The farm can just flow from one generation to the next without ever facing that massive tax event. You're basically avoiding selling the farm back to your own kids every generation.
Right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, but what about a company? Can't I just put the farm into a company? And that's a really good question. But believe me, the differences between the two are absolutely critical.
Okay, check this out. If you put your farm in a company, you own the shares of that company. And when you pass away, those shares are an asset in your estate, which means they get hit with the very taxes we're trying to avoid. With a trust, there's nothing in your name to tax. But look at that second line about income tax. That's where we find the trust's other superpower.
See, a company pays a flat tax on its profits, around 27%. But a trust has this amazing feature called the conduit principle. It means the trust can pass income, let's say rental income from the farm, straight through to the beneficiaries, your kids, your grandkids, and that money gets taxed at their personal tax rate, which is often way lower. Sometimes it's even zero.
I absolutely love this analogy from the source material because it just makes it so real. Think about it. Instead of you earning a salary, paying a big chunk of it in tax, and then using what's left to buy your kids shoes or pay for school, the trust can pay for those things directly, using pre-tax money. It's just an incredibly efficient way to cover family expenses.
So, we've established the trust is fantastic for holding the land. But what about the actual day-to-day farming? the business side of things. Well, this is where the experts now suggest a really clever hybrid model, one that really gives you the best of both worlds. And the setup is actually super logical when you see it. Step 1, the land, the core asset you want to protect forever, goes into the trust. Step 2, the active farming business, the tractors, the staff, all the daily risks, that goes into a separate company. And then step 3, and this is the key, the trust owns all the shares of that operating company. This setup connects the whole enterprise while keeping the precious land safe from business risks.
The advantages here are just massive. First, your land is totally insulated from any business debts or lawsuits. Second, the company gives you all the flexibility you need for banking and running the operations. And maybe most importantly, it solves that classic succession problem. One child can run the farming company, while all the children can still benefit as beneficiaries of the trust that owns the priceless land.
Okay, this hybrid model is incredibly powerful. But, and I cannot stress this enough, it is not some magic recipe that you can just cookie cutter onto every single farm and family.
For some families, maybe where there isn't a clear successor or the kids have all moved overseas, setting up a complex trust might just not be the right move. Every single decision has to be tailored to your family's unique situation, your goals, and your appetite for risk.
And the last thing to remember is that this is absolutely not a set-it-and-forget-it kind of deal. Families change, your wealth changes, the laws definitely change. The expert advice is crystal clear on this. You need to have an ongoing relationship with an advisor and review your structure every single year to make sure it's still doing the job you need it to do. So, we'll leave you with that question to think about. The value of your land is only going to keep climbing, and those tax challenges are not going anywhere. Taking the time right now to build the right structure isn't really about saving tax. It's about making sure your legacy, your life's work, is built to last for generations to come.